everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we are back again, and we're going to talk tennis now and the US Open 2020 men's final contested between Dominic Thiem and Alexander Zverev. What an epic, dramatic final. 5 sets it went all the way, lots of twists and turns and dramatic beats, but overall we have to say congratulations to Dominic Thiem on a great comeback win, coming from 2 sets down to win the match finally, in a match that I think went over 4 hours. Overall score was 2-6, 4-6, 6-4, 6-3 and then 7-6 in the final tiebreaker. So it's always great to congratulate a player when they always come back from 2 sets down. Now we look at this match overall, we really ask the question, certainly from my point of view, was it great tennis or was it actually very inconsistent tennis? There was clearly nerves exhibited from both players. Of course, this was Zverev's first Grand Slam final, and I believe this was Thiem's 3rd Grand Slam final. He had been in the French Open final before, and also of course he lost to Djokovic earlier on this year at the Australian Open final. So obviously nerves would have been very high from both individuals who are very young and don't have as much Grand Slam experience as the top 3, Nadal, Federer and Djokovic. I have to say, and this may be very cruel, and I know that Zverev has had a lot of criticism in terms of his mental toughness and his attitude on court and off court. Many people question his dedication and how hard he really wants to fight within the game. If we're talking about a great comeback or a choke, I'm going to have to say this was more of a choke, I'm afraid, on Alexander Zverev. We go through the match, he goes 2 sets up very comfortably. Thiem really didn't seem at the races, nowhere near the form that he was showing throughout the tournament. Zverev was hitting big serves, coming to the net, trying to be aggressive, and Thiem was making all sorts of errors, trying to go for his shots but not hitting the lines, hitting the net, hitting out of court. And this is probably the weakness of Thiem. When he's in the zone, everything's hitting the lines, everything's going deep, it looks great, but he's kind of a one pace player. Everything's got to be at this intensity. He can't really hit that middle consistent range, and I think that was the problem for him, certainly in the first 2 sets, and he was really making lots of errors. Zverev actually could have won the second set 6-2 as well. He was 5-1 up, but he got broken, and that allowed Thiem to win the next couple of games. And despite losing the second set, it just allowed them to reclaim a bit of footing and set a bit of ground into the match, and that put him in good stead going forward for the 3rd set that we go into. This is very tightly contested. Zverev actually broke again to go early up 2-1 in the 3rd set, but then he got broken straight back, and again that was another sign that Thiem was working his way into the match as well and becoming a lot tougher to beat, a lot tougher to hit the ball through. He came through and win the 3rd set 6-4. We go into the 4th set, again very tightly contested, and then Thiem broke Zverev I think in the 8th game to come back to 2 sets all. And then we come to that dramatic 5th set. Both players, they got broken very early in the 5th set, but then Zverev, after a very tightly contested set as well, goes 5-3 up, and then you really think it's all over back then, but somehow he loses, he fails to serve it out. And this is where I say again, when you've got someone like Zverev, as tall as he is, able to hit those big serves, he looks to come forward, serve and volley, you should really at this point be able to serve the game out. He's been in the game long enough, you know, he's won the Rome Masters, he's won the ATP World Tour Finals, so it's not as if he hasn't been in finals before, he hasn't faced set points or match points previously, so he's been around long enough to know what he's doing. But he just really folded, I can't put it any other way, he folded in these crucial points, and he allowed Thiem to come back into the match. When he had another break point down, he came to serve and volley, and then he put it into net. It was an easy volley, maybe it was too central and he tried to put a bit of angle on it, but he hit the net, and that's when Thiem came back into it. We go forward, Thiem served for the match at 6-5, but Zverev came back with a great forehand down the line to come into the play at 6-all. And then of course we go into the tiebreaker, because that's how it is at the US Open. I'm somebody who always prefers the games to be played out. I know they put a restriction on these games following the long epic matches that we got, particularly at Wimbledon. but I always prefer it when you allow the players to play out the full games rather than the tiebreaker. But into the tiebreaker we went, and Zverev again, he goes up 2-1 up on his serve. You think in a tiebreaker on his serve you should be able to see the match out, but no, he double faults and allows Thiem to come back into the match. We carry on with the tiebreaker, and I think Thiem was 4-3 up. Zverev is serving and he double faults again, and you're just head in your hands at this point, and he's really just backing up all the reputation of this mental midget, if you like, or this mentally weak player. And really, when you've got a big serve and you're throwing in those double faults at those crucial times, you kind of deserve to lose the match in many ways. And Thiem as well, he was doing his best to keep letting Zverev come back into the match. He was hitting errors into the net and hitting them out the line when he was clearly in the ascendancy. But overall, Thiem managed to break Zverev again, and then it was on Zverev's own serve, and then they were rallying, and then Zverev hit a cross-court backhand out, and that allowed then Thiem to overall win the match. 4 hours and Thiem was on the floor, elated, winning his first Grand Slam, finally breaking that duck. And people may say, well, maybe he's the most deserving out of the big four. You know, we've had this ongoing debate with tennis, who's going to take over from the big three. Is this next gen finally going to live up to the task? The supposed next big four, of course, was Dominic Thiem, Alexander Zverev, Stefanos Tsitsipas and Daniil Medvedev. I thought it was going to be either Tsitsipas and Medvedev who were going to break the duck and win the Grand Slam, and then maybe go forward and take over the game. But no, Thiem has done it now, and as I mentioned, he's already been in a couple of Grand Slam finals. He, out of anyone, has challenged Nadal regularly in the last 3 years, I would say, in the French Open. So it'll be very interesting to see what Thiem does, how quickly can he recover going ahead towards the French Open, and whether he can sustain the challenge and maybe even pull off an upset if he manages to get Rafa in the final. So we just have to look forward to it now, and what can Thiem do going forward. Let's say if he doesn't win the French, he can still go ahead. He reached the final Australia last year, so he's a pretty competent player on all four surfaces, I would say. Maybe not so much on grass, but certainly on the clay and the hard courts. You would bank on him now really to make at least the quarters or the semis at least for the Grand Slams going forward. And of course there has to be some point when the big three eventually retire. Maybe Federer's got a last year, Djokovic and Nadal have probably got a couple of years left, so this could be a significant event, you know, in the men's game going forward, if Thiem could go on really and build on this event win here. We go on to Zverev, and I was a bit harsh in saying he choked. I do believe he did more choke this match, but again, he's really going to have to look at himself now and try and be more assertive on those crucial points with his serve. I think as well he's got to learn better to approach the net a lot quicker. He comes forward a lot of the time, but by the time the opponent is going to hit the ball, Zverev is barely past the service box. And the whole point of serving volley is that you have to get as close to the net as possible, therefore making the volleyer a lot easier, and you can control it a lot more and angle it and make a drop volley. But if you're too further away, it makes it a lot easier for your opponent to pass you. So that's something he's got to work on, maybe his footwork in just getting closer to the net and just being a lot more clutch and a lot more hardened on those crucial points, because those are going to cost him in the long run. If he wants to have any aspirations of making an eventual Grand Slam victory, he's got to learn to be more crucial and have a much more tougher mentality when he's up in a match, to use his serve, use his height and impose himself, and make sure he capitalises on break and match points in the future. So we'll wait and see if this will make or break him. I'm not sure at the moment, to be honest, especially like I said, the big three have still got some mileage left in the tank, so we're not even clear whether he's going to make another Grand Slam final. I think he'll win a couple of more hard court Masters and do well at the ATP as well, but whether he'll win another Grand Slam, I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see. So going ahead forward now for the big three, everybody's going to put an asterisk, I suppose, towards this Grand Slam final. I don't think to show hatred towards Thiem, but I just think the fact that the big three have been so dominant for the last really 4 or 5 years, the fact that Nadal and Federer didn't play, and the fact that Djokovic, as we all know, got disqualified because of hitting the line judge. There is a bit of an asterisk, but then Thiem has got to prove it, hasn't he? He's got to prove it now in the French Open and then ongoing for 2021, whether this is an asterisk or whether he is the real deal and going to go on and become the next dominant superstar within the game going forward. This is not just for Thiem, this is for all three of them. As I mentioned, Zverev, Tsitsipas and Medvedev as well. You know, they've all got to come forward now and really step up to the plate and come forward and prove themselves, as of the likes of Kyrgios as well. I think it's too early for Felix. He's too young at the moment. I know people have put a lot of hype on him, but I think he's got a while longer before he starts developing and coming forward. But certainly now, if there is going to be this next gen era of tennis, this passing of the guard, if we're going to see eventual supplementation of the big three, and it's really got to start now. Maybe this win for Thiem will put him in good stead to begin that revolution going ahead next year. So those are my thoughts on the Men's Open, US Open 2020 final. A great comeback win and victory for Dominic Thiem. Some major thoughts and considerations for Alexander Zverev to go forward. We now move forward as well, of course, to the French Open, which is very crucially important, because could this be the year that Nadal finally ties Federer's Grand Slam tally, and then that will spark off yet again the whole debate about who is the greatest tennis player of all time. So there's still some very interesting months ahead going forward for tennis. So let me know what you think in the comments below. That's it for now on a great US Open victory for Dominic Thiem. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.